Yesterday, Dana White sat in a courtroom of Judge Richard Franklin Boulware and testified in a hearing related to the remaining antitrust class action lawsuits brought on by Kajan Johnson and Misha Serkinov. Our man out in Italy, Ariel Helwani, reacted to that. Let's kick off the conversation with his thoughts.
Buongiorno, friends. I miss you all very much. Here in beautiful Livigno, Italy. I got here yesterday. I did a whole video blog thingy on my social media. You can check that out. Shout out to Spencer for helping me out with that. I would have never understood how to do the VO, as they say in the business, the voiceover and all that. But as you can see, it's quite the locale over here. And exactly right over there is the Big Air Mountain. These blokes go all the way up via an elevator and then jump off this thing. It's actually quite terrifying, but very, very impressive. Anyway, I'm not here to tell you about the Olympics, so there's a lot going on. We could talk about the Finnish women's hockey team all succumbing to the neurovirus in their first match against the Canadian team getting canceled at the last minute. Or we could talk about Mark McMorris getting injured, but we're not going to talk about all of that. A couple of news and notes regarding combat sports that I just quickly wanted to weigh in on. The main one being this Dana White testimony, which occurred Wednesday in Las Vegas for the class action lawsuits. You know, we know about the one that has come and gone, but there are still two more that have yet to play out. That's the Kajan Johnson one and the Misha Serkinov one. And Dana White and Tracy Long, longtime paralegal, longtime member of the UFC's legal department, on the stand yesterday. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. I'll leave that to the boys, who will do a phenomenal job of getting into all of that. But I did want to weigh in on him essentially saying that he has had nothing to do with contracts and UFC matchmaking since 2016, since the company was sold to Endeavor and, you know, the Fertittas left. And he essentially also said that Hunter Campbell is the man for that. And my take on that is, I told you so. I've been telling you this for a long time. Hunter Campbell is the straw that stirs this drink. Anytime there's a contract dispute, anytime there's a big fight that needs to be made, is Dana aware? Is Dana involved from afar? Sure. Is he on the front lines? No. That's according to all the managers and fighters that I've spoken to over the past 10 years. It's not Dana reaching out. It's not. Very few of the managers talk to Dana. You know, we know about the ones who have, you know, close personal relationships with him, but very, very, very few actually talk and negotiate to Dana. He might come in at the very end to close a deal. He might be involved in a Conor McGregor fight, but 99% of the fights are not put together by him. 99.9% of the contracts are not put together by him. And this is not an indictment on him. I've been telling you this for a very long time. He used to refer to Hunter Campbell as like his lawyer. He's much more than that. He is, as I've said before, the most important person in this company because of how hands-on he is. And, you know, the way it was described to me when he came on board after Lorenzo left, like he was going to be the yin to Dana's yang, and he was going to be the quote-unquote bad cop in that he's going to be the one, you know, on the front lines doing these deals. And so perhaps a revelation to some, not to me. But interesting to hear him say it, of course. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I told you so, and this is a non-thing. He's never really said that. So, you know, the sport and the promotion and the business has evolved so much. By the way, I did hear some people weigh in on the fact that like, oh, this is why he feels disconnected. I don't buy that. He's still involved in the top line stuff, but there are a ton of other people involved now. It used to be a very small team. There's the whole TKO team, there's the whole Endeavor team, and obviously there's people like Hunter Campbell there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. You know, the previous class action lawsuit covered up until 2016, 2017. And so there's still a lot more years to come. And I know that there are a lot of fighters banking on that. I have heard from fighters who have gotten their payments and they're happy with it. So this is a gift. This is something that a lot of fighters who are maybe struggling or who are hoping to get a little extra cash now on the back end of their career, post-fighting. This is something they're very thankful for and very excited about. Even though they may not say it, and even though some of them may be a little trepidatious, they are all very, very happy about the payments. So we'll continue to monitor that. All right, that does it for me here. I'm just itching to talk to you all. I miss you all. I wanted to weigh in on those two things. I think they're very, very interesting. And yeah, buonasera, buonanotte, buongiorno, ciao ragazzo, ciao bella, pronto. I'm working on it, guys. Had a tremendous pizza yesterday. I was thinking of you guys every step, every bite. And yeah, thanks for holding down the fort. Ciao.
How about that?
I mean, I have to say, the mountains look unbelievable out there. It looks incredible. You think he was really thinking us, every bite of the pizza?
Yes.
How do you say grazie? Grazie, Ariel.
I'm going to leave this one to you.
Buongiorno. I love how he's just like,
Ciao.
all right, so goodbye, ciao, pronto.
Thank you to Ariel Helwani, who's at the Olympics.
Yeah, appreciate you weighing in on that. That ski jump behind you, my God, that looks death-defying.
Insane.
I'm getting kind of high for the Winter Olympics.
I'm getting excited about it.
Okay, so yesterday the testimony happens with Dana White.
Yep.
As Ariel said, not something that's really a revelation for fans who closely watch the sport, that he's not involved in the matchmaking, he's not involved in these contract negotiations, he's more of this face. But to hear him say it under oath in a court of law, I think that is significant.
No, absolutely, because I think for the fans who are not as attuned to the day-to-day, for the fans that are not following every coming and going, who didn't see the Roku series where Aljamain Sterling's actually talking to Hunter Campbell and those kind of things, or even when Dana White's talking about Francis Ngannou and saying, I don't deal with Francis, Hunter deals with Francis, right? The people who don't follow that part of it, the hardcore, probably think Dana White is the guy making all the decisions, the guy who's making all the matches and everything's his, and that's kind of the role of the face of the promotion. That is the role of Dana White. You are supposed to assume that he's involved in all of that. The interesting thing is, there was a time many moons ago where he was making those decisions, whether it be by committee or not. His hands were all over every part of it, and now he has moved in the backseat. He is no longer the one controlling these things in a major way. He's, as Ariel said, do you think Dana White's not aware of the biggest moves that are happening in the UFC? Certainly not. Of course he's in the loop on these things and can weigh in when he needs to. But the actual day-to-day negotiations, the actual conversations with the fighters, the actual matches being made, that's out of his hands at this point. And he says it on the record here.
And this coming at a time where many fans are starting to point out more a seeming disinterest from Dana White. Obviously he's got Zuffa Boxing. We had the power slap for a while and everything like that. And then you look at some of these interviews when he went on the press tour for the launch of Paramount Plus, and he's sort of just like, yeah, sure. No, sounds good. It feels like he's a little bit disconnected. And now for him to get in a court of law and be like, no, I don't have anything to do with the matchmaking. I don't do any of this. I've passed off the buck to Hunter Campbell. Let's go through some of the things that he said. I want to give a shout out to Zach Arnold, Fight Opinion on Twitter. He was keeping us consistently updated throughout the proceedings yesterday. You can read his full article at themmadraw.com, so make sure to check that out. But let's go through some of these tweets that we found to be pretty interesting from Dana White and everything that happened. Before 2016 sale of UFC to Endeavor, Dana says he, Lorenzo Fertitta, Joe Silva, and Sean Shelby were matchmakers. Dana talking about making group decisions on matchmaking and final approval. Dana said after Hunter came in, he had zero role in contract negotiations. Yeah, so interesting to see that the sale was the demarcation point, right? At a certain point, this company is so valuable, and now Dana White moves into a completely different role. But as, I just touched on, there was a time where Dana White, prior to the sale, was involved in all of this, was the spearheading force behind all these kind of decisions. And now it is something that has completely shifted to the point that he continues to say, Hunter. This is Hunter's gig now. Yeah, it all goes through Hunter. We can continue along with the tweets because it's not just contract negotiations. Dana White was asked if he stopped communicating with fighters and managers after WME sale in 2017. Dana said, if a fighter reaches out to me, why are they looking out for me? What's going on? Dana says he's still promoting fights. they get it down to the 1 yard line. They, assumingly meaning Hunter Campbell, McMaynard, Sean Shelby, those type.
And that if he needs to be involved, maybe he can be, right, to kind of get something all the way done. But again, more evidence to the point that the structure of this has completely shifted.
We continue along with these tweets here. Dana White asks, if fighters reach out to him, why do they want to talk to me? He says, Maynard, Shelby, and Hunter deal with fighters, and Dana forwards contact to them. Dana is asked if he asked about adding arbitration clauses to contracts. Less than 0 with contracts, assumingly meaning that he has nothing to do with the contracts at all, and he hasn't for a while. These cases, if I'm not mistaken, stem from fighters that fought from 2017 and onward, and from what he's saying, he has had nothing to do with the contract since then.
Yeah, and inserting any types of clauses and anything that would be relevant to this upcoming litigation.
To the point where fighters are reaching out to him to try and talk to him, like the boss man. You know, every time they're in the post-fight pressers, they're in the post-fight speeches, they're always referencing to Dana. They're always going up to him after the fights. When actually, like, if you do that, he's just like, no, bro, talk to Hunter. Talk to Sean, talk to Mick.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the interesting thing is Dana White, part of Dana White's appeal and part of the reason Dana White is where he is because as he was the president of the UFC, he felt like he was one of the fans, right? He was an everyman, and he was this, now granted, he had some very wealthy and powerful friends, but he was this fan of combat who was like us, just wanted to enjoy some great fights, could talk the talk, could hang with him at a bar, the type of guy you quote unquote want to have a beer with and that type of shit. And now we're in a position where the fighters who have grown up on that, who wanted to be into the UFC and have thought of that, are entering an era where it's like the Dana White that existed back then, the Dana White brand that was built back then, it does not exist anymore. He's just the figurehead. But if you actually want to get the business done, if you want to sit down, like there was photos of when Conor McGregor was signing new deals, he'd be at the bar toasting with Dana Lorenzo. And like that kind of thing, I don't think is the environment that exists anymore. And so these fighters that have grown up on this and wanted to be here for so long and thought about that, are basically just having conversations with Hunter Campbell and the matchmakers. Like that is how that goes. But it's an interesting dynamic that Dana White's like, yeah, just forward that email. Like I just pass them along. It's not me.
Actually, he doesn't forward that email because he does say during the
That's right. He doesn't
have email.
Crazy.
Does not have email. Doesn't know his phone numbers. Only uses his Instagram.
Okay, there's a point. There's an interesting little side departure note that part of the conversation here is that they've been like accused of like obfuscating.
That was a tough one, man. I give you credit for it.
Information, right? They've been accused of limiting text messages, deleting things. There's a phone lost by Dana White, and he had a justification for that yesterday, saying like at some point in this little time frame, he lost the phone and yada yada yada.
On Ari Emanuel's relative.
There was a relative of Ari Emanuel who was involved.
He admitted to having a burner phone when he was going
in China
over to China. But when he was in China, there was 0 business discussions made on said burner phone. So like it's okay that it was a burner and it's gone.
There's some serious kind of things also at play here beyond just like the inner workings of the UFC, the parlor drama and all that stuff. There are some serious, like, does the government have all the information needed for this case to be properly adjourned? Like for this case to actually have the correct information and everything at their disposal, that is kind of the heart of what's going on here. And so the UFC like structure and who's in power and all that stuff is very interesting, but the real heart of the matter is actually like what happened to these text messages. Were there any text messages deleted? Was there a phone lost? What was on that phone and all these things? So there's a lot of like conversation about that, but it's very important to what will happen because as you can imagine, you lose messages about some sensitive information that you go, oh, whoops, I lost my phone. It does draw suspicion.
Well, Zach Arnold and Nate Wilcox in their article on themmadraw.com mention as much. They say that the judge really pressed Dana White when it came to the loss of the cell phone, the text messages being deleted, everything like that. That's where they really pressed it. They don't care about the inner workings of the UFC. That's really just interesting from a fan standpoint. what went on and how this case is determined is the high stakes part of this. I mean, they say right here, the high stakes part of this case is not only does each present the possibility of another 9-figure settlement for the UFC. This is 2 more cases. The last one being a $375 million payout.
And I believe they're Cajun Johnson and Misha Serkinov.
Yeah, who fought all the way up until 2022. In the Lee versus Zuffa, that was $375 million. But then they also say it presents the possibility of injunctive relief, which would mean that TKO might be forced to modify their business practices, which could be very significant, especially with the launching of Zuffa Boxing just happening right now, which seems to be a carbon copy of UFC in the way that they handle their business.
Yeah, wide-ranging implications for this. So very important. The Dana White element of this is most important to the story of if Dana was involved in this, to what extent, right? Because basically what he's painting the picture of is like, I'm not involved in any of this. Like, this is all these other guys. Talk to them. I'm not involved. Okay, that's fine. But then, like, what is their involvement in terms of this? And do we need to have additional discovery here?
Let's continue along with the tweets here from Fight Opinion, Zach Arnold. Dana White was asked about Hunter Campbell in his original role as UFC head of legal. Dana brought him over to the matchmaking side. Basically, you handle the whole business side of the fight game. I mean, that is a testimony in the court of law being like, I got nothing to do with this, man. Since over the last decade. I mean, that's what Ariel said in his reaction video talking about, his relationship with managers and them talking about Dana White and everything. It's been for the last 10 years, which holds up in a court of law. Hunter, it's all you, man.
Yeah. Dana's running it.
Hunter's running it. Dana's running from it.
Dana's running from something. Dana losing the cell phone, no email. Interesting.
We keep rolling along with the tweets here. Just a couple more. Simon Samano says, Dana White tells the court, you will not find one manager on this planet who will tell you I've negotiated a contract and I do not know how long.
Yeah, that feels very definitive too, right? It's like he's even establishing the fact that, like, even with the managers, he's not having these conversations, and which confirms what Ariel was saying in the video that he sent in. Like, the managers are going to Hunter. They know that it's Hunter. And I wonder if from this, the fans will start to understand this as well. I wonder if from this, like, the fans will have a better understanding of it. I also wonder how much do they even care? Like, Dana White being the face of it, like, there are many companies that are run where, like, the CEO is not getting involved in the back end day to day. It's very unique that he would be. The one thing I'll say is, I think the point you made about, like, the Dana White apathy and lack of, like, connection to the product, I think is very much aligned with this thing. The idea that, like, as he took his eyes off what was going on the business side, as he moved further away from it, as he handed it over to Hunter Campbell, you no longer have to know who's fighting who. You no longer have to be as involved in the product. And I wonder if Dana can be as effective as he once was, if that's the case. I think the answer is probably no, as we're seeing in practice.
I think it would be impossible to. When he's in those inner workings, you know so much more about the game. Therefore, you're passionate about it. You get excited about it. There's no way he could replicate that without doing it.
The only bit of bail I'll throw is that is not a unique circumstance. In many companies, I think fight sports are very unique, and that's why it doesn't always work this way. But, as an example, David Feldman just came on earlier today with us. David Feldman knows every single thing that's happening in that company and is involved in it to the degree that Dana was back then. Many companies have CEOs who are not doing those things, so it's not uncommon. They are now a massive business, multi-billion-dollar business. So the idea that Dana White's not involved in, like, the minutia of it is kind of fine. It's not that big a thing for me, as long as there's somebody in place, that would be Hunter Campbell, who does do these things.
Also, Dana White has grown to a level of celebrity that he is just a face for the UFC.
That's
like, he is his own character at this point. People care about as much about him as they do the biggest stars in the UFC.
He's a top 5 UFC star.
Yeah. I mean, he's up there with, like, if you talk about, like, IG followers, he's got as much as, like, Ilia Topuria out there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. I think there's one or two more tweets that we wanted to go over here. He was asked, why would you be communicating with Conor McGregor on Instagram? Dana said it was more of a personal thing, but Conor did reach out to him to fight on the White House card. Dana said some other fighters hit him up on Instagram, yes, but he denies UFC business ever conducted on IG.
I would believe him on that.
Yeah, I think so too. I would imagine Dana would be like,
let's bring it in.
Let's talk about something else. Or let's go with a different means of communication. Are there any more tweets? One more. Delangelo, one of the lawyers in the proceedings, asking Dana White about signing in and out of Instagram and Access. Questions about conducting UFC business and matchmaking via Instagram. I sent this over to the boys and they'll handle it. Talking about Shelby Maynard and Hunter. I don't do that really anymore. Dana said Hunter is in charge. So kind of just reiterating what he had already mentioned, that several times over, Hunter is running the show with the help of McMahon and Sean Shelby.
And people are coming to him via Instagram, and he's just like, yeah, this
Which makes sense. I mean, makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure a bunch of fighters hit him up. Like, it feels like that's the best way to get in contact with him. So, yeah, it doesn't come as a surprise at all. Like we've just said, I don't think Roger Goodell is in the scheduling meeting for the NFL. I think he's much more of a overseer of the league, which Dana White has essentially become now, in addition to being a figurehead for the company.
Yeah, he's still very, in my opinion, he's still very valuable to the UFC, despite the fact that, you know, we've kind of all acknowledged that he's not as engaged as he once was in the product. As you said, the Instagram following, the power, the proximity to power that he has with the political realm, people see him and still can identify him, and there are many fight fans who still like the idea of Dana White being involved in this, despite the fact that the business side of it is still Hunter Campbell.
One other very interesting detail that came out from these testimonies yesterday was Tracy Long, who also testified, UFC vice president and longtime UFC paralegal. In discussions about UFC 317, this came out. In the process of trying to establish that Tracy Long had more of a hands-on role with UFC fighter contractual duties than she was admitting under oath, the plaintiffs got Ms. Long to confirm text messages on the record discussing Ilia Topuria and front row management Malki Kawa. It turns out, according to Wednesday's court hearing, that there was a contractual holdup right before Ilia Topuria's fight with Charles Oliveira at UFC 317 on June 28, 2025, right up until the fight. As to what the nature of the holdup was, we do not know, but something interesting happened, and Tracy Long appears to have been in the conversation about it. Wow. We were out in Las Vegas for that card. A good card. A great card. But the crown jewel of it was Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, and you're telling me there were contract disputes all the way up until fight time.
Yeah, and we've heard versions of this before, right? Conor McGregor is somebody who has the power and the leverage to be able to do this. This does speak to me a few things. First of all, that was courtesy of the MMA Draw, that same article that we were referencing earlier. This does speak to me about the idea of how powerful Ilia Topuria actually is within the promotion, right? Like, he is somebody that they value to a degree that, like, look, if you try it, I'm sure there have been other fighters who are like, hey, UFC, can you kick me a little extra? Like, I'm about to fight, and try to kind of do that tactic. By the way, this is not like a new tactic. We've seen this in boxing. We've seen this in MMA. It used to happen in Pride, where right before the fight, they'd be like, nah, you actually got to pay me more. And as a promoter, you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, at this point, the show has to happen, and so I need this. But it sounds like they were negotiating right up until, and fortunately, they were able to come to terms, at least agreeable for both sides, and Ilia Topuria was able to fight. It is crazy. It is wild to think that there was a world where maybe they don't come to terms and all of a sudden Ilia Topuria doesn't fight. But now it makes me think of Ilia Topuria in a different light, in terms of, yeah, this is a guy that like has the leverage to be able to do stuff like this, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I can't ever imagine that the UFC, unless it was just an absolutely absurd request or demand for more money, that they would allow one of their biggest pay-per-views of the year to get derailed by contract negotiations.
Well, the fact that they even let him come to Vegas, do the prep, get there, makes me think that they were probably close enough that this wasn't going to be a very difficult negotiation. Because in a realistic world, if they thought they were far apart, yeah, take a hike. You're not headlining this event anymore, right? It's that type of thing. But again, Ilia Topuria wields a lot of power, not just inside the cage, but seemingly outside.
There are going to be more proceedings today. They may have already been done. You can follow along, Fight Opinion on Twitter. That's Zach Arnold, the MMA Draw.com. They are still currently happening. I'm wondering if we're going to find out any more from that. But very interesting stuff coming out of those proceedings yesterday, Wednesday afternoon. Not as a big surprise, but it's going to be interesting to see how many MMA fans even care about this. I mean, you have a guy in Dana White who not only is getting up there talking about the fights week in and week out at these press conferences and reacting and everything, but then like Dana White Contender Series, like, is he just simply showing up to the Apex on fight night and just watching the fights and being like, all right, you're signed or you're not? There's no like prior knowledge going into the fights?
Sorry, I was just sorry. I tuned out for a second there because I'm reading some real-time updates from Zach Arnold.
Okay. What do you have?
They're back in court.
Okay.
Judge Boulware is asking basically, I need every single text message that's ever been sent from Dana's phones. They're asking, did we image every single phone that it was possible that Dana White had? And we need to have text messages. They're talking to the phone companies and trying to figure this out. So as I said, the minutia of this, the actual like tech side of this, the importance of having every single message seems to be the priority for the court, which is very fascinating because to me, this obviously gives off the impression that they feel like things have been withheld. So interesting things to come. Eric Yee, Dana White's social media person, is currently the one being questioned right now.
And Hunter Campbell will be testifying next. So going to be very interesting to hear what he has to say. We'll be following along. Like I said, Fight Opinion on Twitter. Zach Arnold is giving updates. The MMAdraw.com also doing great coverage for it as well.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.